My name is Skylar, 32 years old, living in a small suburban town in Oregon. I have been married to Nathan for almost 4 years. Our story began in a way that most people would say sounded just like a scene from a low-budget romantic comedy. We met when we were both stuck in an old elevator at an escape room center. More than 40 minutes trapped in that cramped space, with dim flickering lights and the creaking sound of cables, was enough to melt away all initial awkwardness. I clearly remember Nathan trying to break the tension with old jokes, while I just wished I could get out to find a restroom. Yet, after that day, he asked for my phone number. At first, I thought our clumsy, awkward encounter was a charming twist of fate. But as time went on, I realized that fate was only the beginning of a marriage filled with strange moments, lacking the sweetness people talk about in fairy tales. Nathan had his likable moments, but mostly when we were alone. When his family was around, everything changed. Nathan's family was so large that I could hardly remember everyone's names, no matter how many gatherings I attended. That crowd showed up at every occasion: birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and even for bizarre reasons like a farewell party for his dad's old pickup truck. These weren't just warm family reunions, they felt more like a stage where I was the target of jokes and mockery, all under the banner of family tradition. At first, I tried to think positively. Maybe it was just harmless fun. But over time, I saw clearly that their words were sharper, aimed directly at me without hesitation. Whenever I was present, they found ways to remind me that I was an outsider who could never truly understand their family culture. Remarks like, "Skylar must be dieting so she won't try our signature barbecue," or, "City daughter-in-law can't handle our simple way of life, huh?" echoed through crowded dinners. And there I sat, gripping my glass of water, forcing down my discomfort. Nathan, my husband, not only didn't defend me but laughed along to please his mother and sister. Once, when I was visibly upset after a gathering, he just shrugged and said, "You're too sensitive, they're just joking." Just joking? I asked myself that silently, so many times. Facing their scrutinizing looks and half-mocking, half-serious comments, those gatherings became a nightmare I had to mentally prepare for all week. Before each one, I sat for hours in front of my closet, wondering what to wear so they wouldn't criticize me. No matter what I chose, someone would say, "Skylar, don't you think that outfit's a bit too city?" Or, "Oh, are you planning to dress more simply to fit in with us?" My mother-in-law Joanne, nearly 60, was the type of woman who always kept up a polished appearance and took pride in her proper traditional family. In her eyes, I was never good enough. Nathan's sister Madison, 2 years older than me, was a younger version of their mother with a mouth that never stopped and a gaze full of arrogance. I still remember that first Thanksgiving evening after we married, when I brought a tart I'd baked myself. Madison glanced at it and smirked. "Oh, Skylar brought city pie? Let's see who's brave enough to try it." Laughter erupted around the table, and I sat there trying to smile despite the sting in my chest. "Nathan." He patted my shoulder and whispered, "Don't mind it. They're just used to joking like that." Every time I left those gatherings, I asked myself, what am I trying for? Love? Or some faint hope that they would finally accept me as part of their family? But the harder I tried, the more out of place I felt, like a puzzle piece that would never fit their picture. I don't know when Nathan's family gatherings became the nightmare that I had to brace myself for all week. At first, I thought I was just overly sensitive. But over time, I realized it wasn't a passing feeling. It was the harsh truth I had to face. I would never be part of their family, even though I had been Nathan's lawful wife for over 3 years. My in-laws had a habit they called a bonding tradition. At each gathering, there would be moments of joking where the main target was always me. They turned every little detail of my life into a joke at the dinner table. Once, at Christmas dinner, when I spoke about my work at an interior design firm, Nathan's cousin Ella snorted, "Oh, Skylar, you fix houses, but can you fix yourself?" Laughter exploded again. I sat there, feeling crushed by their mockery, trying hard to keep my hands from trembling with anger. And Nathan? He sat there smirking, sometimes even adding fuel to keep the story lively. Once, after his mother Joanne commented that my long dress looked like I was headed to a funeral, Nathan elbowed me and muttered under his breath, "You should feel lucky." They're at least paying attention to you. I remember wanting to stand up and walk away from that table. But instead, I stayed seated, bitter inside. I began to realize that to them, I was never truly a family member. Whenever I tried to join in conversation, someone, maybe Madison or Cousin Richard, would cut me off with a joke or a comment sharp as a blade. Once, when I mentioned wanting to earn a project management certificate, Madison shrugged and smirked. Skylar planning to manage Nathan? Just worry about the kitchen first. I swallowed my reply, knowing that if I reacted, I'd only be their joke again. Those gatherings weren't reunions anymore. They became group ridicule sessions with me as the star act. They picked at my weaknesses, my choices, my clothes, my words. They judged everything from the food I brought and my hairstyle to how I interacted with people. Once, at Nathan's grandfather's birthday party, when I smiled at a little cousin, someone quipped, "Careful, if Skylar holds the baby, it'll cry." Laughter rang out and I turned away to hide my tear-filled eyes. Whenever I told Nathan how hurt I felt, he just shrugged. "You're too sensitive. Every family teases for fun. You need to learn to blend in." Blend in? How could I blend in when they made me the entertainment? How could I laugh along when they were laughing at me? I started to realize that Nathan not only didn't protect me, but often joined them just to keep his image as the fun, easygoing son in his mother's and sister's eyes. I used to hope he'd stand up once, tell them their jokes had gone too far. But every time, he chose their side. Or worse, stayed silent as if I'd imagined it all. I began to dread the messages inviting us to parties. I made excuses about being busy or tired, but I still went, afraid Nathan would blame me if I didn't. Every time I crossed Joanne's threshold, it felt like I was putting on invisible armor, bracing myself against their subtle attacks. I no longer remember the last time I felt happy at one of my in-laws' gatherings. Now everything is just a performance I never wanted to be part of. That day, Oregon's sky had been drizzling since early morning. The gloomy air felt like a warning of something bad ahead. Nathan drove me to Aunt Clara's house, where they were hosting a baby shower for his cousin Emily, who was expecting her first child. I sat in the car, watching raindrops slide down the window, my heart heavy. I didn't want to go at all, but refusing would only get me blamed for not being sociable. As we stepped into the house, I immediately felt everyone's eyes on me. Polite greetings rang out, but I could still sense the scrutiny in each gaze. The house was packed. The loud chatter and laughter made me feel like I was standing in the middle of a show I never signed up for. I forced a smile and greeted Emily, the only person in Nathan's family I found kind. She hugged me warmly and said, "Thank you for coming. I know this must be so hard for you." I squeezed her hand gently, saying nothing more. But that peaceful moment vanished as Madison, Nathan's sister, appeared with a cocktail in hand, her voice ringing out with mockery. "Oh look, Skylar's here. What city specialty did you bring for the baby shower this time? Hope it's actually edible." Laughter erupted around us. I bit my lip hard, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. Nathan stood nearby and instead of standing up for me, he smirked. "Don't push her. If Skylar cooks, the whole family would probably end up on a diet." I froze. My heart felt like it was being crushed. The laughter filled the room, each burst pressing down on my chest. I looked at Nathan, hoping for a look of remorse. But no. He was glancing around, enjoying the spotlight, with me as the joke that made him shine. About an hour into the party, as everyone gathered round the main table, Aunt Clara, Emily's mother, suddenly spoke up loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Nathan, it's your turn next. When will we get some happy news from you two?" The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his reply. I gripped my water glass tightly, praying the question would pass quickly. But no. Nathan looked around, laughed loudly, and said something I'll never forget. "With her, I'd rather not have kids at all. Who could stand that negativity every day?" The laughter boomed like thunder. I heard Madison laughing so hard she choked, and some cousin clapping along. My eyes burned, but no tears came. By now, I wasn't even embarrassed anymore, just cold, right down to my core. I turned to Nathan, my voice trembling but clear. "Aren't you ashamed to say that?" He shrugged and smirked. "You're too sensitive, just having some fun." Madison chimed in, "Geez, if Skylar had a kid, that poor baby would probably just whine and frown all day." The laughter roared louder than before. I set my glass down on the table and stood up. Under the curious stares of the whole room, I walked straight to the door. Nathan followed, grabbing my wrist harder than necessary and hissed through gritted teeth. "What are you doing? Don't make a scene, everyone's watching." I yanked my arm free, looking him straight in the eye. "Don't touch me again. I've had enough." Right then, I heard my mother-in-law, Joanne, mutter just loud enough for me to hear, "Nathan, you need to learn how to control your wife." I looked at her, then around the room. No one apologized. Only judgmental eyes stared back. There was nothing left holding me there. I walked past Madison. She reached out to stop me, but I sidestepped, knocking over a small tray of candy and invitations. The sound of candy scattering filled the room. Madison gasped. "Oh, Skylar, what are you doing? It was just a joke." I didn't answer. I opened the door and stepped out, leaving behind Nathan's voice calling after me and the crowd's hushed murmurs. A cold rain hit my face, but it made me feel sharper, more awake than ever. I hurried to the car, slid into the driver's seat, my hands shaking from both anger and sadness. I didn't know where I would go right then, but I knew one thing for sure. I wouldn't let myself be their joke ever again. The rain kept falling steadily as I drove away from Aunt Clara's house, each drop beating against the windshield like a drum for the storm in my mind. I didn't go home. I couldn't. The thought of facing Nathan made me feel sick. Instead, I turned down a small street toward Claire's apartment, my best friend from college. When I rang the bell, Claire opened the door, her eyes filled with worry as she saw me soaked through, my face pale with anger and exhaustion. "Come in, Skylar, what happened?" I stayed silent for a moment. I just dropped my bag on the floor, stood silently for a moment, then whispered, "Let me stay here tonight. I'll explain later." Claire nodded, handed me clean pajamas, and gave me space. That night, I curled up on the sofa, staring at the streetlights shining through the window, feeling strangely hollow. But the peace didn't last long. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I saw my phone flashing non-stop. More than 30 messages, nearly a dozen missed calls, all from Nathan, Madison, my mother-in-law, and even numbers I didn't recognize, probably other relatives. I swallowed hard and opened the family group chat. Just a few lines in and my heart pounded. The first message was from Nathan. "Where did you go? You embarrassed the whole family last night. Call me now." Then from my mother-in-law. "Skylar, you need to learn to control yourself. You're hurting this family." Of course, Madison didn't miss her chance. "How long are you going to keep up this drama? That's enough, Skylar. Get it together." And then I saw the memes sent into the group. One was a picture of a cat wearing a crown with the caption, "Queen of Drama." Another showed a cartoon character crying with the caption, "Skylar every time the family jokes around." The anger rose, choking me. I set my phone down on the table, trying to take deep breaths. Claire came out from the kitchen, saw me trembling with fury. She didn't ask anything, just placed a hot cup of tea in front of me, sat beside me, and gently squeezed my hand. Nathan kept calling. I let the phone ring and then silenced it. His next message. "Don't make this worse, just apologize and we can talk properly." Apologize? I should apologize for being humiliated in front of so many people? About an hour later, Madison sent another meme into the group chat. This time, a picture of a girl making a face with the caption, "When someone can't handle a family joke." At the same time, my mother-in-law messaged me privately. "Skylar, you're hurting Nathan. Have you thought about his feelings?" I didn't reply. I knew if I said anything now, it would only give them another excuse to say I was stirring things up. The whole morning, I sat in Claire's living room, staring at the pile of messages, feeling like the whole world had turned against me. I texted my mom, just a few words. "Mom, I'm not coming home today, don't worry about me." She called me right after. She didn't say much, just spoke softly. "Are you okay?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "I just need some time, please don't tell anyone yet." She simply said, "Okay." That afternoon, just as I started to feel like I could breathe again, my phone rang. This time it was a call from an unfamiliar number. I declined it. A message came right after. "Skylar, it's Nathan. Why are you avoiding me? Come home. Don't make me have to look for you anymore." I closed my eyes, a chill running down my spine. I replied short and firm. You've found me enough. Don't call again. Claire looked at me and asked quietly, What's your plan? Stay here as long as you need, but you have to think about yourself now. I nodded, my eyes stinging but no tears falling. I know, I just need a little more quiet. 2 days after that night, when I turned off my phone and forced myself into silence amid the storm of messages, an unexpected invitation appeared. It was from my mother-in-law. She texted, Skylar, let's do this the right way. The family has reserved a table at Olive Garden tomorrow night. Everyone wants to listen and resolve this peacefully. I hope you think carefully and come so we can end this. Reading it, I leaned back in my chair full of doubt. Was it really to listen, or was it a trap? To corner me into apologizing in front of everyone? Claire glanced at my screen and shook her head. They want to back you into a corner in public so you won't dare to speak the truth. I stayed silent, my mind spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Part of me wanted to cut them off completely, to never face them again. But another part, the part that had endured too long, the part yearning for justice, pushed me to face them. I didn't want to keep running and let them tell the story their way, making me out to be the destroyer, the unstable one. All afternoon I sat in front of my laptop, opened a notes file and typed out every word they'd thrown at me. Every time they'd humiliated me, I needed to remember clearly, so that when I faced them, I wouldn't tremble, wouldn't forget from anger or shame. Claire watched me work determinedly and finally spoke up. I'm going with you. No one will corner you if I'm there. I hesitated, then nodded. With Claire by my side, I felt stronger. The next day, as I was getting ready to leave, my mom called. Her voice was gentle but filled with worry. Are you sure about this? Don't let them hurt you again. I smiled into the phone even though she couldn't see it. Don't worry, Mom, I won't let that happen. Claire picked me up in her old car. On the way to the restaurant, she turned on some music, the familiar tune giving me strength. When we pulled up in front of Olive Garden, my heart pounded, but the panic was gone. I was ready. We walked into the restaurant. I immediately spotted Nathan's family's table. A long table by the window with Nathan, his mother, Madison, his father, 2 aunts, and even Emily all there. They all turned as they saw me, forced smiles appearing on each face. Nathan stood up, started toward me as if to hug me, but I gently stepped back and gave a slight nod. Claire stayed close, her sharp gaze locking on Madison, making her look away. We sat down. The tension was so thick that even the server's hand trembled a little as he set down the menus. People started with empty small talk, the weather, work, new dishes on the menu. I stayed silent, waiting for them to get to the point. Finally, Joanne spoke, her voice low and kind in a fake way. Skylar, I think everyone wants this to end peacefully. Family is for love, not blame. I hope we can all put the past behind us. Everyone's at fault a little, right? Nathan jumped in right away. That's right. I just want things to go back to normal. Don't be so tense. Everyone here cares about you. Madison didn't miss her cue. Exactly, Skylar. Don't blow this out of proportion. I set my fork down, opened my phone, pulled up my notes, and looked each one of them in the eye. I don't want to blow things up, but to be clear, let me remind everyone what happened, because it seems people forget. These are some of the things you said to me. The table went stone silent. I read, each word clear and steady. Skylar dressed like she's going to a funeral. If Skylar cooks, the whole family would have to go on a diet. If Skylar had a kid, she'd probably just teach it to complain. Skylar, you need to control yourself. You're hurting this family. I paused, looking around the table. That's love? Those are loving words? Nathan started to blush, flustered. I was just joking. You're too sensitive. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm. Am I too sensitive, or is everyone just careless? Madison frowned, about to say something, but Claire lifted her head, her voice sharp as ice. I think Skylar made it perfectly clear. Maybe this time everyone should listen instead of making excuses. The table fell silent. The server came by to refill the water, his eyes full of discomfort as he witnessed the scene. I looked up at Nathan, speaking softly but loud enough for all to hear. If you want things to go back to normal, then don't make me the one who has to apologize for what I didn't do wrong. The tension around the table grew so heavy I could hear my own rapid breathing. All the eyes turned to me, a mix of shock and anger. Nathan forced a smile, but it was crooked and more shaky than ever. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Skylar. This was supposed to be a dinner to heal, not for you to read out an indictment in front of the whole family," he said, his voice strained. I looked him straight in the eye, my tone steady, almost cold. "You call this healing when for the past 3 years every family gathering has turned me into entertainment? Healing by making me bow my head and apologize when I'm the one who's been insulted?" My mother-in-law, Joanne, sat up straighter, her face pale but her voice still clinging to fake sweetness. "Skylar, you should understand that every family has words now and then. A mature person knows how to let things go, not dwell on them." I gave a bitter smile, surprised at how calm I sounded. "I'm not dwelling, Mother. I'm just remembering because it seems everyone here forgets too easily." They forget that behind those jokes is a person, a legal daughter-in-law of this family. Madison shot up, her voice shrill. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Skylar, aren't you tired of playing the victim? You know exactly how this family is." Claire lifted her gaze now, sharp as a blade. "Maybe the problem is everyone's gotten so used to Skylar staying quiet that they think they can get away with anything." The table froze. I pulled a white envelope from my bag and set it down right in front of Nathan. He stared at it like it was some strange object, his lips moving. "What's this?" "Divorce papers. I've already signed. All that's left is your signature." The air seemed to freeze. A waitress passed by, her hands trembling as she placed the dessert on the table, then hurried off without looking up at anyone. You're joking, right?" Nathan asked, his voice so small I had to lean in to hear. "No. This is the one time I'm not joking and the last time I'll let you or your family make a joke of my dignity," I replied, every word solid as stone. My mother-in-law's face drained of color. She jumped in quickly. "Skylar, don't act rashly. Are you trying to tear this family apart?" I turned to her, for the first time daring to meet the eyes that had looked down on me so many times. "I'm not tearing anything apart. This family chose mockery and insult over love. I'm just refusing to be the shield that takes it anymore." Madison slammed her hand on the table, hissing through clenched teeth. "You're just jealous because you never fit in and now you're making a scene." I smiled lightly. "Thanks for reminding me." "You're right. I'm proud I'm not part of that behavior." Nathan stood, his face red, his hand gripping the envelope but not daring to open it. "Can't we talk about this in private? Why do this in front of everyone?" I took a deep breath, my voice low but firm. "Because you chose to humiliate me in front of everyone so many times, now you'll face the truth in front of them too. I gave you the chance to talk privately but you never listened." Madison stepped toward me, her eyes blazing. Claire immediately stood up, blocking her path, her voice steel. "Enough! If you can't respect Skylar, at least respect yourselves." A strange silence fell over the table. I stood, grabbed my bag, my eyes sweeping over each of them. "I'm not apologizing, because I didn't do anything wrong, and from now on I won't be the shadow you all mock. Have a nice evening." I turned and walked away, hearing Nathan call out behind me. "Skylar, you'll regret this." I didn't look back. I just kept walking, my heart light. Claire walked beside me, her hand on my shoulder, whispering, "You just did the bravest thing of your life." The very next morning after that night at the restaurant, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating like it was about to explode. Messages, missed calls, group chat notifications flooded the screen. Nathan, my mother-in-law, Joanne, and even Madison took turns sending them. I left the messages unanswered. I read through them, no longer feeling the pain I once did. Now, there was only exhaustion, and a kind of amusement at how they tried to save face by blaming me. I called my parents. My mom's worried voice came through. "Are you okay? Do you need us to come get you?" I said, "I'm fine, Mom, but I think I'll come stay with you and Dad for a while. I need to get out of here." My dad, a man of few words, took the phone. "Get your things together, we'll be waiting." That afternoon, Claire and I went to the house I used to share with Nathan to pack up my things. Nathan wasn't home. The house was empty, silent, as if it too understood what was happening. I gathered up my clothes, my books, my keepsakes that I once cherished. This time, I felt no attachment. As I packed my small potted plants into a box, the door opened. Nathan stood there, his face gaunt, his eyes red. Skylar, don't do this. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Please come back, we can start over. I didn't look up, just answered. I gave you so many chances, and you chose your family over me. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand, but I pulled back. Don't, Nathan, don't make this harder for both of us. Nathan shook his head, his voice pleading. Do you really think you'll be happier without me? You won't find anyone who loves you more than I do. I smiled gently, no bitterness left. Love me? You let others mock me right in front of you? Let it go. Claire stepped up beside me, her eyes wary on Nathan. Let her go, enough. We left that house and I set the key on the kitchen counter before closing the door. As the car pulled away from that street, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Nathan standing motionless on the porch. A part of me felt pity, but mostly I felt relief. In the days that followed, Joanne kept sending messages of blame, saying I was making Nathan miserable. Madison, of course, didn't miss the chance to mock me, even posting vague statuses on social media as if I were the traitor. But I didn't care anymore. I'd turned off all notifications, staying in touch only with those who truly cared about me. My parents welcomed me home. My mom cooked warm meals, and my dad sat quietly beside me whenever I needed peace. My sister Lily texted every day, sending me apartment listings and cheering me on. One evening, as we sat down for dinner together, my mom took my hand, her voice calm but firm. You did the right thing. No one deserves to be treated like that, even by family. I choked up and nodded. Yes, I'd done the right thing. I started looking at places. There was a small apartment near the Central Park that I loved, though I'd have to wait 2 weeks before moving in. In the meantime, I stayed with my parents, savoring a peace I hadn't felt in so long. Looking back, I could see clearly the true nature of Nathan's family. They were united when it came to cornering me. But when faced with the truth, when no one stayed silent for them to mock, all that was left were cracked facades. 2 months after that night, I walked out of what I once called home. I received an email from the court. My divorce from Nathan had been officially finalized. I sat quietly for a few minutes, taking a deep breath. Not out of sadness, the pain was gone. It was relief, pure and simple. A chapter had closed. And this time, I was the one turning the page. That evening, my family held a small dinner. My mom made the lemon roast chicken I loved, and my dad opened a bottle of red wine saved from last Christmas. Lily brought over a cake with messy but sweet icing that read, "Welcome to freedom, Skylar." I couldn't help but laugh when I saw that cake, so clumsily decorated but filled with love. "You've been so brave," my mom said, placing her hand on my shoulder. My dad met my gaze, his nod subtle, his voice gentle. "I'm proud of you." I looked around the table, my heart full of gratitude. This was family, a real family, where no one had to shrink themselves to be accepted, where jokes didn't mask disrespect. In the days that followed, I moved into that small apartment near the park, a third-floor place filled with sunlight through its wide windows. The first morning I woke there, I pulled back the curtain, watched the sunlight filter through the trees, and felt the peace I'd been searching for. I kept busy setting up my new space. I wiped down my little plants, lined them neatly on the windowsill. Books I'd lost interest in before became companions again on quiet afternoons. I hung up my favorite painting, bought a soft beige rug for the living room. Claire often dropped by on weekends, bringing hot coffee and fresh flowers. She'd tease me. "Skylar, I've never seen you so at home with yourself." I smiled, replying honestly. "For the first time, I don't have to try to please anyone else." Work at the design office became easier too. I no longer rushed home to cook dinner for someone who never appreciated it. I took walks around the park, joined a yoga class I'd always wanted to try but had been too afraid to because I didn't want to be called showy. Every night, lying on my new bed in that little apartment, I'd close my eyes, listen to the breeze outside, and feel it deep in my soul. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go. It's not failure. It's the only way to keep your dignity, to find yourself again amid life's chaos and pretense. The strange thing was, the more time passed, the clearer I saw what had been. Nathan's family had always seemed unbreakable, but they were only united when they needed someone to bear the brunt of their mockery. When I stopped standing there, when I stopped letting them, they had no reason to stand together anymore. Sometimes I still got the occasional stray message from Nathan. Things like, "I hope you're happy. I miss you." I didn't send a response, not out of hate, but because I'd truly stepped out of the cage I'd once locked myself in. One afternoon, walking past a small flower shop near my home, I stopped and bought a pot of lavender. The seller asked, "Special occasion?" I smiled softly and said, "It's for me." I brought the plant home and set it on my desk. Looking at it, I felt it more clearly than ever. I'd finally found my peace. And this time, I didn't need anyone's permission. My story isn't just about a failed marriage. It's about finding myself again after years of being belittled and swallowed up by pretense. I learned that letting go isn't failure. It's how you protect your dignity and rediscover real peace. Now I treasure every moment of freedom, every step in this new life I've chosen, no longer trying to fit anyone's mold. What do you think of Skylar's story and her brave decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories and life lessons about family and upcoming videos.